This is a public service announcement brought to you by all of us here on the Nation Sports Show. Tonight, what you will see and hear will not be god-awful, just like that shitty finish to AEW Dynasty. Unlike Tony Khan, for the next couple of hours, we will not be insulting your intelligence, unlike Tony Khan. We will not be sitting on the air for 5.5 hours giving you content, putting everybody to sleep, like most of us did, falling asleep during the watch-along of the NFL Draft back in 2021. Unlike Tony Khan, when it comes to the world of sports, we give our honest takes, opinions, analysis on how good, how bad, and how downright ugly when it comes to the world of sports. Tony Khan, however, praises AEW up and down. Yay! The product's phenomenal, you guys! I thought everybody had a great match, man! That's what I love, man! I love putting together phenomenal matches for the sickos, man! I love the Death Riders, man! They're making people want to come to the shows, man! What a bunch of bullshit! If you find this following content offensive, I feel sorry for you. Off is sure the direction that you can fuck right off. And now to tonight's edition of our Nation Sports Show. Our Nation Sports Show. Tonight on the Nation Sports Show, join us as we bring to you our analysis of the Final Four and the National Championship games that took place in San Antonio, Texas, a city that is known for champions, the San Antonio Spurs. Many have asked, will we get a Cinderella story during the NCAA tournament? And many have asked, will we get some shocking developments taking place before our very eyes during the tournament? And all of that took place and then some during the Final Four. Tonight, we also bring to you the latest breaking news in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Speaking of the NBA, the play-in tournament and the playoffs begin very soon. It's Tuesday. You know what that means. It's showtime.
Good up to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show.
Ay, ay. I got I gotta start pre-screening these renders. I gotta start pre-screening these opens. My God. Oh, that was a rough one. Yeah, that was definitely rough. That was definitely rough. That was like watching the that was definitely rough. That was like watching Dallas Cowboys try to play football. But oh, and by the way, keyword on that, people, try. What's going on, everybody? It's our Nation Sports Show. Back to regularly scheduled programming. We thank you guys for joining us. We got one hell of a show ahead of us tonight. We hope you guys enjoy it. We got a lot to get into. Of course, some major developments in the world of the NBA, some NFL news. Of course, some NHL history was made. We'll get into that in a little while as well. And of course, the NCAA Final Four and the NCAA Championship took place as well. So strap in, guys, and get ready to roll. Let's grip it and rip it, as Uncle Bully would say. And let's get on to it. We got a big show for you. And here are the ways you can interact with us first. And that is, of course, that Owen_Sports Show on the X Twitter machine. And that Actually, no, that is on its Twitter machine, YouTube.com, Instagram.com, and Facebook.com. Our Nation Sports Show. Follow us there. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Don't forget to tell your friends, your family, your adversaries, your parents, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters' ass, whatever you got to do. Also, don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner at The Nation's Corner on the Instagram and on the YouTube as well. The Nation's Corner across everywhere else. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube. And what a stack show they got. Coming off the heels of not only Dynasty, but also the heels of an awesome Monday Night Raw. With some developments building on this road to WrestleMania. Some interesting little tidbits now added to certain matches. It's going to be interesting to see what they get into. And also, the collective keeps building. More announcements for Bloodsport, more announcements for JoJo Spring Break, FE Speedgate Brunch, Dragon Gate, whatever. And I know some of our crew is building their plans and getting them finalized once they head out there to Vegas. So shout out to Neil, Marks, Money Mark, Trenda. They're all going to be out there hanging out in Vegas. So if you see any of them, say hello. But you can watch Nation's Corner every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on their Facebook and YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to like that Too Sweet Cosplay Cross Socials, my wrestling themed cosplay group tomorrow. And of course, this weekend is C2E2. It is the big weekend. Too Sweet Cosplay will have a booth in Cosplay Central, and we'll have our panel Sunday, 3 o'clock to 3:45 in room S401D. That's where you can go and you can talk all things pro wrestling, especially WrestleMania. Because with WrestleMania being next weekend, it's going to be an insane discussion topics. And we're going to try to cover the entire card, GCW Collective, and what other events we're going to get into. So definitely join us there. C2E2.com. There's still 3-day passes that were put out available. Get them while you can, otherwise they will sell out. And there are only Friday and Sunday passes available. All Saturday passes have sold out. So definitely you want to join us for that weekend. We'll be out there the whole weekend hanging out. So C2E2.com to buy tickets and information on parking and everywhere else and where the building is located. And also Too Sweet Cosplay across all socials for more info, including cosplay featurettes. All right, enough of this 7-minute spiel I went on that, as usual, I don't make a damn dime off of. Let's introduce the crew tonight. And we got with us, joining us from the start of the show today, is the man of the hour, Too Sweet to Be Sour. No, I'm not talking about Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm talking about Big JT, Joey, why do I keep cheering for a losing team like Alabama Thornton?
Oh. Okay, first off, screw you for that comment.
I knew that was coming.
But anyways, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be back in the co-host chair and glad to also be here on time, unlike LeBron James. Oops, did I just say that out loud? I think I did. But yeah, it is great to be back, ready to talk some Final Four NCAA action, the big NBA news that broke just earlier today involving a certain team that is now probably going to start tanking. But of course, we'll get to that in just a minute. But until then, yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to talk some sports. So let's get it going. Oh, and by the way, in regards to that amazing opening from Steven, Tony Khan, if you're watching, all I have to say is ouch.
And speaking of my heavy metal brother from North Carolina, he is next. And that is of course, like I said, the king of the nation's corner when it comes to drumming, when it comes to music, sports, and unbelievable blood pressure exploding ranting about AEW and its inability to put on a good show. And that's Steven's narrative and not the narrative of everybody at the nation's corner nor the nation's sports show. But he is my heavy metal brother. He plays drums. He plays drums better. He plays drums better than most artists. It doesn't need backing tracks. Stephen Wyand.
Yes. The words expressed by yours truly, Stephen Wyand, are not authorized by everybody else here on the Nation's Sports Show or the Nation's Corner. They are my words and my words alone. And if you feel offended by my rants and all that type of stuff,
We will agree.
I feel sorry for you.
No, we will agree. I'm saying this to keep pace, just because we will agree to disagree and move forward.
Yes.
But then again, I do have one little statement to make here. It's not really a rant if you're speaking the truth.
I know.
Just saying.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I
We
agree
just
with
we just we just don't want to offend a certain demographic of fans of wrestling fans that call themselves the sickos. But
look, and we're I want to say this too, Steven, and that is that we're not insulting the fans. We're not trying to insult fans of AEW. Look, they like what they like, and if they say something is right, look, we necessarily don't have to agree to it. We don't necessarily have to agree with their opinion. Their opinion is their opinion. If they want to believe it, they'll believe it. It's whatever. It is what it is. We believe in what we believe in. Like, I believe in GCW is one of the best independent promotions in the world. Some might think it's complete and utter outlaw wrestling, backyard bullshit, blood-filled garbage. Just like some people may like AEW for certain aspects, and some may hate AEW for others. And we get that. That's the whole point of being a fan. You have the right to speak your opinion and say whatever you want. Steven has the right to say his opinion and say whatever he wants. And whether I always say agree to disagree, because the arguments are never good for anybody, whether it be
no,
about
they are not, and that could be
wrestling,
with
sports,
that.
religion, anything.
That could be with anything. I mean, but also when situations like we had on Sunday, when you have situations like that happen, it gives people like me who get that creative bone to do something, because it's obvious. Like, in a lot of people's eyes, a lot of us feel the same way when it comes to what happened on Sunday. Like, this is the third, and I know we're getting off on a tangent. I mean, we're a sports show, but when you have the finish that you have had for the last couple of pay-per-views that have been so bad, it gives people, ammo. It gives people ammunition to do something, whether it be funny, whether it be serious, or a little bit of both.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. And it's a matter of they got to fix the problems themselves. We can't do it for them. So
it's up to Tony Khan to fix the problems that he has. I mean, not only does he have to worry about his own wrestling company, but he also has to worry about the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL.
And that's a lot.
And to segue back into sports, we got a lot to talk about tonight when it comes to the world of sports, because like Joey just said, there was some breaking news that came down to the NBA that was earth-shattering, with the playoffs coming just around the corner, and also the Final Four and the national championship games are done. College basketball is done until the fall. We got a lot going on, and we are so happy to be here talking about the world of sports and all of that good stuff. And with that being said, let's get this show on the road there, fellas.
Let's do it, my man. And let's get started with the breaking news. Let's start off with some unfortunate news. And as many of you know, earlier this morning or late last night, a nightclub in the Dominican Republic, the roof collapsed. So far, it has claimed nearly 5 dozen lives. And unfortunately, one of the lives was former MLB player Octavio Dotel. He was unfortunately one of the victims that were killed in that. Also, another one was the sister of MLB veteran Nelson Cruz.
Yeah, her name was Nelsie Cruz, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and she was unfortunately in the nightclub as well when the roof collapsed, unfortunately claiming over 60 lives and injuring hundreds of others.
Holy smokes, like that is crazy.
And we definitely want to send our condolences to the families of Nelsie Cruz and Octavio Dotel. Octavio played for the White Sox from 2008 2009. That's how I remember him. But we definitely want to send our condolences, our prayers, and our positive thoughts to both families at this time. Some sad news to come out of the world in the major leagues today. But
yes, and don't forget, he was a former World Series champion with the St. Louis Cardinals back in 2011.
Yes, he was. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and move on to some more, not sad news, but some shocking news. What are you gonna say, Joey?
Oh, nothing.
And I was gonna say, let's get into some shocking news here, and that comes from the world of the NBA. And two big announcements came down from the Denver Nuggets organization. Shams Charania first broke the news that Denver Nuggets general manager Calvin Booth and head coach Michael Malone have both been fired This comes after the team is currently in fourth place right now in the West, and in the verge of getting ready to head to the playoffs. This is kind of a head scratcher, and I'm trying to figure out. And Steven, maybe you and Joey could, I don't know, shed some light on it.
I mean, my thing with this whole situation before Joey gives his thoughts on this is when you look at what the Nuggets have gone through in the last couple of years. Sure, is this team different? Has had the makeups of these two teams from this year and last year are a little different than the team that won the championship in 23 with that loaded roster? Yeah, because Caldwell Pope is not there, Bruce is not there. I mean, there's countless players that were, key contributing pieces to that team being successful when they won the championship in 2023. But let's not forget, guys, that they took the Minnesota Timberwolves to a 7-game series last year. And they were a couple of plays away from arguably winning that game. And there were also several plays away if they would have rest Jokic or Murray for a couple of minutes or maybe a minute or two just to get them a little bit of a rest, because when you overplay your players, they're going to get gassed out and they have to work twice as hard to score and also to defend on the other end of the floor. And yeah, the injury bug has bitten Denver. And and Jamal Murray's been out for a long period of time this season. And they still have Porter Jr., they still have Jokic, and Jokic is still obviously in his prime. He's still one of the greatest big men to play in this game. He's a complete freak of nature. He's an all-around player, and it's completely shocking, that they're fourth in the West and they have a good record. Yeah, they're not where they want to be as far as record-wise, but at least they're still going to make the playoffs with 3 days left to go in the regular season. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't have fired him. Joey, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I have food in my mouth. But yeah, this is definitely a head scratcher because when you look at the success that Denver has had under Mike Malone, who, in my opinion, going into the season and pretty much every season that Denver's been on top, which has definitely been the past few seasons, Mike Malone has been one of the most respectable, hard-nosed coaches that actually knows how to coach the game of basketball. I mean, he's been one of the most respected coaches for the past several years. And for Denver to just kick him to the curb, it just, and especially with it being this close to the playoffs, like you mentioned, Steven, it makes me wonder if there's something else behind this that the media is not currently sharing at the moment.
And that's going to be interesting because down the line, after the season concludes, with the regular season, we're probably going to be getting some reports as when the playoffs gets underway in the next couple of days. I mean, it is just shocking. I mean, so you had the Memphis Grizzlies fired their head coach and Taylor Jenkins a week and a half ago, and now the Grizzlies have skidded all the way from one of the top six, spots in the Western Conference side of the playoffs. Now they're fighting for their shot to get in the play-in tournament. And having to fight for that 7th and 8th spot, it's not guaranteed anymore. And now that this play-in tournament has came into play since the COVID days in 2020, now these 7th and 8th teams, these 7 through 8, 9 through 10 teams that are fighting for 2 spots in the NBA playoffs, they're going to duke it out. And the Grizzlies went from a guaranteed spot to now they're not even sure they're going to get in. And again, I wouldn't have fired my head coach. Stick it out. I mean, it ain't like you're the Washington Wizards. It ain't like, you're one of the worst teams, at the bottom of the basement, in the Eastern Conference. It ain't like you're the Utah Jazz, who have had one of the worst records in the Western Conference and arguably and probably statistically have had one of their worst single season records, probably in over, I would say, hell, probably over 35, 37, probably over almost 40 years. I mean, since the days of Karl Malone and John Stockton and obviously Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer and, countless players that have come and gone from that franchise, they at least have had a pretty solid record with those players when they were there for their tenures of the franchise. But come on, man. I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, you're firing a head coach who I know he's not the most politically correct, head coach. He's a very bold, he's a very, opinionated head coach. Those are the types of coaches that I love. Because Michael Malone, I said it from day on and day one and day, forth, to this very day. He reminds me of Greg Popovich. He does not give a damn if you're the top guy or if you're the guy at the end of the bench, sitting there as the 14th or 15th player on the roster. He does not care who you are. He will tell you how he likes it or he doesn't like it.
Absolutely. And Steven, you bring up an amazing point right there. I mean, Michael Malone, as I mentioned, he has been one of the most likable head coaches in recent sports history. I mean, if you were to compare Mike Malone to, let's just say, a football coach, then one comparison quickly comes to mind. And that, of course, is Dan Campbell from the Detroit Lions. Though he is so well respected in that locker room, just like Michael Malone was in a Denver Nuggets locker room, that it just really surprises me that Denver would fire such a successful head coach. Now, I get it. They're on a 4-game losing streak right now, but still, that doesn't give you a reason to fire a head coach who has literally put you back on the NBA map as far as having successful teams year in and year out.
I mean, gentlemen, we've seen the best teams in the NBA that will go on to win a championship, like the Mavericks, like the Lakers have, like the Celtics. We've seen these teams in the regular season go on these losing streaks in the middle of a season. We've seen this happen. And we have seen teams skid their way into the playoffs, even if they are a top 3 or top 4 seed, on a losing streak. It happens. They're panicking. The owner of basketball operations is panicking. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't the owner of the Nuggets the same owner of the Los Angeles Rams?
That is a very interesting question. Let me take a look and see real fast.
Because if it is Spaniels, then he is a freaking moron.
Okay, it says that the Denver Nuggets are owned by team owner Josh Kroenke from Kroenke Sports and Entertainment.
That's it. Okay, so Kroenke is the guy that I think that yes, I think Kroenke is the one that owns the Los Angeles Rams.
Yes, you are correct.
Wow. So the owner of this, go figure, the owner of this team who owns the NFL's Rams is making some of the most boneheaded decisions. I mean, come on, man. Like, the Lakers
not to mention, he's also the owner of the Colorado Avalanche of the National Hockey League.
And Colorado had a franchise that went to the top and won the Stanley Cup, and now look where the hell they are.
That is very interesting.
Man, that is crazy.
And here's another mind-blowing stat, or here's a stat that might blow your mind, Steven. Now with Michael Malone's firing, he has now become the 4th head coach in the past 6 years to have won a championship in the past, but is now no longer the head coach of that team he won a championship with, joining Nick Nurse from the Toronto Raptors in 2019, Frank Vogel from the Lakers in that Mickey Mouse Bowl championship back in 2020, and of course, Mike Budenholzer from the Milwaukee Bucks, who won the 2021 NBA championship.
This firing, Joey, and guys, honestly reminds me of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, because they treated Mike Budenholzer like crap.
I mean, when you fire a guy who has been with this team since he brought Jokic into the NBA, now I know that Michael Malone did not, single-handedly draft, Nikola Jokic, as a rookie in the NBA, but he had a hand probably in bringing in Jokic to the NBA with the Nuggets. And when you look at what Denver has gone through in the last several years, Jokic winning MVP, multiple times. And if anything, I hate to be that guy, but if you were gonna fire Malone, you should have fired him after 2021 or 22. You had a shot to get there during the Mickey Mouse, ring, but the Lakers obviously knocked them out, and that was obviously the year that Jamal Murray was out with the ACL injury. And when you look at what this team has gone through, and now the makeup of this team is going to change for the rest of the season with an interim head coach who does not have the history of being the head guy coaching a basketball team, like, to me, this spells disaster for the Denver Nuggets. If I'm the Los Angeles Lakers, I am licking my chops. I want to play a team that is not having a head coach with them all year long because he doesn't know the playbook up and down with the Nuggets. He doesn't know the plays they like to run all the time because he was the interim guy. He wasn't the head guy. Michael Malone was the guy leading the charge. And it's a shame that Kroenke made the decision, to be selfish and to think about himself and went into full-blown panic mode. I mean, and I know we were fans, we're not back there behind the scenes with these teams, knowing every little tidbit with these organizations. But you have to be honest with yourselves. When you look at how the ups and the downs, the good, the bad, and sometimes the ugly goes on with sports. Teams go through good things. They go through bad times. And sometimes good teams, hell, championship teams, go through adversity, and you have to defeat adversity sometimes in the middle of the season or even in the playoffs because you weren't tested. And when you're tested, that will prove your championship pedigree. And I just feel so awful for the entire Colorado State. I feel so bad for that entire Denver fan base that has been loyal to this organization throughout the years with Carmelo Anthony, taking that team to the playoffs multiple times. This team has been through its trials and tribulations, and they rose to the top of the NBA world, at least for once in their existence as a franchise, and hoisted one championship trophy for their city. But come on, man, this is a terrible, terrible move made by Josh Kroenke.
Yeah, I don't understand this decision making, but then again, it is the wonderful world of sports. I mean, what are we gonna do? Unfortunately, we're all fans. We're at the mercy of these guys' decisions, and the Denver Nuggets organization. I don't know what this is gonna mean for them going forward. Probably them completely tanking, like Joey said, but I know it's going to affect the fans too. I know the fans are not going to be happy about that, and if they aren't already, I haven't checked social media on that. But
this is the second most shocking firing or trade in NBA this season, second behind Luka being traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers.
Yeah, it really is. And to be honest, this also could not have come at a more worse time because when you think about it, if you've been looking or if any of y'all have been following the NBA standings as of late in the Western Conference, Denver is one of the 6 teams in which seeds 3 through 8. That's right. I said seeds 3 through 8 either all have the same record or are within half a game of each other. So anything can happen at this point in the regular season with 5 games left to go. Anything can happen. I mean, Denver may be in fourth place right now, but if they don't get their act together under the interim head coach, whoever that's going to be,
I know who
they
it is.
might find themselves in the play-in picture.
I know who it is, Joey.
Who?
It's going to be lead assistant David Adelman.
Oh, well, at least it's somebody who's been on the Nuggets sideline.
Yeah.
But still, if they don't get their act together, the Nuggets are going to find themselves battling for a play-in spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the next topic at hand is in the world of the NBA is that the Mavericks are going to convert two-way guard Brandon Williams on a standard 2-year NBA deal after he was on a two-way contract. He's averaging 8.3 points, 2.4 assists, 51% shooting, 37% of threes, and 15 minutes a game. Also, too, Trailblazers GM Joe Cronin reached a multi-year extension with the organization with the Portland Trailblazers. Blazers have 35 victories, a 14-win improvement so far, and are 22-16 since January 19th, while ranking top 5 in defensive efficiency during that span. Bucks executive and former 6-year NBA forward Ronald Dupree is returning to his alma mater, LSU, as the general manager of the men's basketball program. He spent 8 years as with the Bucks front office and now becomes among few ex-standout players as school GM. And then how about this? Let's talk about the announcement of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class. And what a class this is. You got Mickey Harrison, Billy Donovan, of course, the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, the 2008 U.S. Olympic men's team, Danny Crawford. Now we get into some of the women in the WNBA who will be added this year. Sylvia Fowles, Maya Moore, and Sue Bird.
Hell yeah.
And then finally, to top it off, one of the best big men, Dwight Howard, and Melo himself, Carmelo Anthony.
What a great class. What a phenomenal class of talent.
Yes, I was happy to see that Melo was getting in, and I was happy for Sue Bird. I was happy for Sue Bird and Maya Moore and Sylvia Fowles. I was like, those women deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, their careers speak for themselves in the WNBA.
I mean, especially, coming to mind like Maya Moore. I mean, she came into the WNBA and made a sudden impact.
And no, we're not talking about Jericho's tag team with Lance Storm.
Yep.
Had to bring that up. A couple days ago, the NBA fined John Morant $75,000 for finger gun gestures.
Morant, you will never learn. Like my uncle always says to me, a leopard never changes its spots. Clown.
I'll take dumb things NBA players do for $500, Alex.
What a clown. Being petty just like Tony Khan.
Okay. All right, let's right here. It's Tyrese Maxey is done for the year with a finger tendon injury.
And things get worse for Philadelphia.
Yep. The Sixers 3 All-Stars, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey all out for the remainder of the season.
You know what? The Sixers should tank the rest of the season.
Would be a bad idea. Let's see what else.
Hell, depending upon how far they make it into the playoffs or if they make it, just tank. You're done. You're done.
There's Joey. There's Mr. Alabama.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to step away for a minute.
But real quick, more NBA news before we move on to the next topic at hand. Right here is Portis is set to return from his 25-game suspension.
Interesting.
Yep, he returns tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, that was because he was suspended on February 20th for testing positive for tramadol. Let's see here. Right here, one more big announcement, and that is that Jace Richardson from Michigan State has announced he will be declaring for the NBA draft after his freshman season. And you know what? That leads us right into the Final Four. And what a freaking Final Four it was. I mean, we saw what happened in the championship game last night. Me and Steven did. There's a lot to discuss. Steven, why don't you go ahead and give us first the start of the Final Four? Why don't you go ahead and break that down for us? Joey, go ahead and help him out lead into that.
When you look at this Final Four, going into the Final Four, everybody was, or especially going into the tournament, people were complaining about, these 4 number 1 teams. Auburn's truly not a number 1 team. But we all said it last week on the show when Kevin was on the show with us last week. The committee got it right with these number 4 teams. And this Final Four delivered. It was unbelievable. I mean, Auburn in that first half, and there was a common thread, a common theme throughout the Final Four this past Saturday in San Antonio. Auburn was leading a good chunk of that game. Duke was leading a good chunk of their game against Houston. Both teams lost. And when you look at the first game with Auburn and Florida, Walter Clayton could not get things going early on in this game for Florida, but he caught fire. He caught fire. And when he eventually, got hot, he scored over 30 points once again. I mean, what an incredible run he has had in this tournament. And gotta give Walter Clayton Jr. and the rest of that Florida team a lot of credit for being, gritty, for, fighting adversity, being down against Auburn's tenacious defense, and coming back and beating them in a very close game. Joey, what were your thoughts on this Florida Auburn game?
Talk about an absolute barn burner of a Final Four match, not only between 2 of the 4 number 1 seeds, but also conference opponents. Both Auburn and Florida were from the SEC, and they had battled each other like 2 or 3 other times in the regular season, plus the conference tournament before they met in the Final Four. So those 2 teams delivered one hell of a Final Four game. And like you said, Steven, Walter Clayton, it took him a little bit to get going, but once he did get going, he could not stop. It seems like everything he was putting up was finding the bottom of the net. Him, along with Will Richard and along with Thomas Hoff, that was the 3-headed monster for Florida that they so desperately needed to get as far as they did in this NCAA tournament. What
I mean,
what an amazing Final Four game between Florida and Auburn. Now, as far as the other Final Four game,
real quick, just some of the numbers from Clayton in that game. 34 points, 11 of 18 from the field. Unreal.
absolutely
Martin had
unreal.
17 points in that game.
But yeah, going back and going towards the other game now. I don't know what was going on with Duke, but it just seems like that once they grabbed that 14-point lead with 8 minutes to go in the game, they literally just took their foot off the gas, thinking that they were going to be able to play soft, but still wind up with the win in the end. I don't know what was going on with Duke in those final 8 minutes, but Houston, they deserved to win that game because they, unlike Duke, did not take their foot off the gas. They looked at the scoreboard and said, "Oh, we're down 14 points with 8 minutes left. The game isn't over. The game isn't over until we see all zeros. We need to go out there and show this team what we're made of for this final 8 minutes, and let everybody know that we're here to stay. We're here to stay." I mean, a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people counted out Houston. A lot of people picked them as the first number one seed to lose in their respective brackets. Me being one of them. I'll admit, I had them losing. I had them be the first number one seed to lose in my bracket, just like several others. I'm sure they did as well.
I did too as
But
well.
But Houston, they just kept going. They, I mean, they felt down. They felt defeated, but the war was far from over. The war was far from over for them.
Because, like
They
you
knew
said,
what they had to do. They knew what they had to do in the final 8 minutes, and they went out and did it.
they had to play
Now,
perfect basketball.
oh, they did. They absolutely had to play perfect basketball. And like I said during the show last week, or first, let me lead off with this, and then let me lead into what I said last week on the show. Duke fans, I can respect them. They don't go off the front end like Dallas Cowboys fans and Georgia Bulldogs fans and this, that, and the other. I can respect Duke fans. However, Duke fans watching that game, I'm sure, thought that the climax of that little turnaround by Houston was the fact that Cooper Flag got called for that ridiculous foul. And I'll admit, that was a ridiculous foul that was called on Cooper Flag.
But that
But
wasn't the reason why they lost the game.
no, that wasn't the reason why they lost the game. And I lead into that with what I said last week on the show. And that is the fact that free throws are crucial in close games like this. Why did Cooper Flag get called for that foul? I mean, we obviously don't know the reason why, but I'm willing to bet you if Tyrese Proctor would have made that free throw that he missed, Cooper Flag would not have been called for that foul because there wouldn't have been a foul to call. So again, I say in close games, whether if it's a one and done game, if it's one of those situations where you lose, you're out, you have to bring your A game 100% of the time. Whether you're on a football field, whether you're on an ice skating rink, whether you're on a baseball diamond or whether you're on a basketball court. If it is a one and done situation, meaning if you lose, you're out, then you have to bring your A game 100% of the time. Because if you don't, and your opponent does, then that opponent that you're facing is going to bite you right where the sun does not shine.
You know what,
And
Joey?
that was the problem with Duke in this game.
You know, Joey, you're too politically correct. I'm going to say it. If you don't do it, it's going to bite you right in the fucking ass.
Exactly.
But yeah,
But yeah, that is what happened with Duke in this game. They took their foot off the gas. They got cocky. They got so big headed that they thought, oh, well, we got this game in the bag. We're up by 14 points with 8 minutes to go. There ain't no way this team is going to catch up to us. And then look what happened.
I mean, think about this, guys. When you look at the body of this game and how it was going, Duke was out playing, out defending the Cougars for a good chunk of this game during the whole first half and in the first 10 minutes plus of the second half. Once that three was hit to go up by 14, the Blue Devils thought that, oh, this game is over. We're going to the championship game. We're going to have the game that everybody's been talking about. It's going to be us versus Florida. This is why you have to play 40 minutes of basketball. Not 30, not 35, not 25. You have to play a complete game and make the best of all plays on both ends of the basketball. And this is coming from a Duke fan in myself. I'm not going to sit here bitch and moan, piss and moan like a little bitch about making excuses while they lost the game. Where that Cooper flag foul was one of the worst egregious calls in NCAA tournament history. That's the reason why they lost the game. The referees were favoring Houston because they were in Texas. They were in San Antonio. Where? What do you want, Dookie fans? You want some hamburgers and a French fry meal? Give me a freaking break. And this is coming from somebody who is a brutally honest sports fan. Just because I'm a fan of you doesn't mean I'm going to kiss your ass 100%. Play the damn game. Win the damn game. Don't take plays off on the offensive defense. And Jesus Christ, the turnovers by Duke in that second half killed them. There were 3 critical turnovers, including, if we remember, Joey, and we'll get to this in the championship game, and this nearly cost Florida too. When the ball gets knocked out of bounds and it's going to the other team, like, I think, right? Like, if it gets knocked out of bounds and it's touched, that means you have to get that ball in perfectly. It's not an inbounds pass. Like, if the ball falls in a specific spot of the floor in college, you have to throw it in from that spot. That turnover by Duke killed them. They tried to throw James tried to throw that long lob pass. I forget, I think it was to Flack. I believe it was to Cooper Flack. Trying to throw this long pass. It gets deflected and stolen. And then Houston goes up the floor. And they made a 3. Down 3 with 30 seconds to go. And then after that, they turned the ball over again. And then Houston got the ball and they laid it in. So at that point, you're down 1. You've already given up so many points. You've given up a 7-0 run or a 5-0 run at this juncture off of 2 turnovers. And then Duke gets fouled. They missed the 1-and-1. Cooper's going for the ball. He reaches around and he gets called for the foul. And that's when Duke fans were losing their minds and spilling their drinks and throwing away their food because they're pissed off and mad about it, making excuses, crying into their beers, and saying this is the reason why they lost the game. Shut up. Shut the hell up. Be realistic. Look at what your team did for, over 30 minutes of this game. That was great. But do it for 40 minutes. Don't sit there and take off the last 8+ minutes of a basketball game. This isn't one of those tournament games or one of those series in the NBA playoff series or the Major League Baseball, playoffs or the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. This ain't a series, my friends. This is like the NFL and the NCAA football, college basketball or college football playoff, tournament. One and done. You lose, you out. You win, you advance. It's simple as that. This is inexcusable. And if I'm Cooper Flagg, like me and my friend Bo have talked about, if I'm Cooper Flagg, I'm 18 years old. I am staying put where I'm at so I can learn and grow. Yeah, he may have been one of the greatest freshman players, to play statistically throughout a regular season. He is a great player. And I'll ask you this, Joey, that I don't think it's just me. I don't think I'm alone when I say this. If I'm Cooper Flagg, I'm not doing a fadeaway. What I would have done, I would have driven to the basket and make the officials call a foul and put me at the free throw line.
I mean, you're not wrong with that statement. I mean, the fadeaway is one of the most difficult shots to do in basketball. I mean, a lot of people can do it to the best of their ability, but still, it's one of the most difficult shots to do. Excuse me, in a basketball game. And if I want to try to win a ball game, I'm not going to rely on some fadeaway. Like you said, Steven, I would take the bull by the horns, charge to the basket, and make the opposing team foul me. Hands down.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that our very own Kevin Roy would say the exact same thing.
Now I know he's obviously upset about that foul, but when you look at the turn of events of this game, that wasn't the reason why you lost the game. Turning over the ball, not having great shot selections, not hitting, your typical shots when it matters the most, missing defense assignments on the basketball. You got to be great. You can't be mediocre. You got to be great if you want to, reach legendary status. And when you look at the Duke Blue Devils season, they had a great year. But when they needed their great players to show up in 8 minutes and change, they didn't score but one bucket in the final 10 minutes of that basketball game. One bucket. The team that was one of the top scoring basketball teams in college sports history, right up there with some of the greatest college teams. Find a way. Hey, you're bitching about a foul call that got caught on Cooper Flagg? Why don't you make a second shot? Why don't you stop Houston from scoring on one of those turnovers that you had? Especially that horrible pass that was a football style pass, a lob, and it was easily deflected and intercepted. It's pretty obvious why they lost this team, or why they lost this game. And John Shire, got to give him credit. He obviously he's not happy with the loss. I mean, I wouldn't be either. That's my team. My team just lost. But his reaction to the loss, I can't be mad at that. You believe in your kids, you believe in your players. But it's up to the players to go out there and execute the game plan. You cannot expect your team to take plays off and on and expect them to win the game. You have to be consistent. You have to defend more, because there was times where Duke was smothering Houston in this game. Houston couldn't get a good shot off. They were having to work for their shots. But the minute the Blue Devils stopped defending, that's like you said, Joey, with your assessment and your analysis. They took their foot off the gas.
They really did. They really did. And, you know, I just now thought of an interesting question to ask to Duke fans. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be able to talk to every single Duke fan. As a matter of fact, I'll be lucky if I get to talk to, let's say, one or two. But here's an interesting question for y'all. The previous time that you were in a Final Four, you also lost that game. But not only did you lose that game, you lost to your biggest rival, which turned out to be the farewell of legendary head coach, Coach K. So, if you're the Duke Blue Devils, which loss hurts more? Lose it in the Final Four to Carolina, or lose it in the Final Four to a team that you should have easily beat in the Houston Cougars?
That is an excellent question, Joey, because, and we're going to get to that championship game here now, and that's a nice segue because the Cougars led this game. They were up on Florida by 12. Florida had to do the same thing they've done in this tournament throughout, and that's make a comeback. They made a comeback against UConn. They made a comeback against Texas Tech. They made a comeback in the Final Four against Auburn, the Tigers. They had to do the same thing
yeah.
against
As a matter of
Houston.
fact, Florida had to come back from at least being 9 points down in all three of their games leading to the national championship, the Elite Eight, Final Four, and last night's national championship.
Real quick, to give you a little bit, a couple of stats from this Duke and Houston game. Houston, how many turnovers did they have? 9. Duke, 7. But 3 of those 7 turnovers, like I said, were critical. Continue.
Excuse me. But yeah, I
Holy
mean,
shit. Sorry. Real quick. Houston finished on a 25-8 run, including, here's the key statistics, 9-0 in 33 seconds.
wow. That is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, going to that national championship game, I mean, Houston, well, I guess let me put it this way. Houston, we have a problem. And that problem was turnovers. Because even though Houston still led for a majority of the game, as a matter of fact, Florida only led for 64 seconds. That is a minute and 4 seconds total that they led in this national championship game. But yeah, in that last little bit, Houston kept trying to put Florida away, but their problem was turnovers. Because in their last 4 possessions, all 4 of them ended in turnovers. All
And
4 of them.
And the one turnover, Joey, that I will never understand. It is the final possession by Houston. I know we're kind of piggybacking, jumping around during this game, but listening to this game, the one turnover that I will never understand, and I don't care if you're a college player or if you are a professional NBA baller. If you are going to make a basketball move and leave your feet, know what you are going to do with a basketball move. Don't leave your feet and go freeze in the moment and go, oh shit, what the hell do I do? Don't do that. Because if you take one extra step or dribble, travel.
Yeah, exactly. And Sharp, whenever he let the ball hit the ground after Walter Clayton played some amazing defense, I mean, he knew for a fact that if he took another step or two, he would have been called for a travel. But that is where the other Houston players needed to step up
Because
because
after Sharp left his feet, no other Houston player came to get the ball.
no, and there were two other Houston players that were around him whenever that whole situation took place. But did any of them try to go after the ball? No,
No.
they did not. And that is what cost them. Because it was in those last two possessions, actually, in those last two possessions, in which Florida was able to come back and take the lead for that minute and 4 seconds. It was in those last two possessions that Houston could not even put up a single shot because of them being careless with the basketball. And I mean, out of, as a matter of fact, let me see something real quick. Let me just pull something up real fast here. Give me just a moment.
We'll make sure your camera's off like mine. That when you pull it up, it doesn't get put on camera. I'm completely joking here. it was a
Sure you are.
it was a masturbation.
Okay, here we go. Box score.
Well, unfortunately, then if since I can't really lie to you, I got another to make.
Okay, here we go. Houston had only 9 turnovers in that game compared to Florida's 13. However, of those 9 turnovers, 7 of those came in the second half, with, of course, the last 4 being within the final minute and a half of the game. And that's not going to win you a basketball game, no matter how hard you try.
I'm just baffled with the turnovers. Like, Houston snatched defeat against Duke. And then they did the complete opposite against Florida. They snatched victory out of their own damn hands. I mean,
Yep.
Florida did not lead a lot during this game. Houston led the majority of the game. It's almost like the emotion, the emotional win against the Blue Devils on Saturday night. That right there kind of took the wind out of their sails. I mean, I feel bad for the Houston players because, I mean, you made it that far. You got to the championship game. When you were in a close game in sports, those right there are going to defy who wins and who loses because of critical turnovers. Who has the least amount of turnovers? Who does have the most turnovers? That right there is going to pretty much determine who is going to win a game. And also, who also makes the little plays, like an offensive rebound, who defends a little bit harder, who makes another shot or two. I mean, because Walter Clayton, otherwise, against all the other teams that he faced throughout the tournament, in this game, Walter Clayton did not have his best shooting game. He only made 1 3 in that game. But he made the 3 when it mattered.
I mean, he only had 11 points in the game, and all 11 of his points came in the second half.
You save your best performance for the last. Sure, would he have loved to gotten 20 plus points or 30 points? Absolutely. But if you win a
Sure.
championship and you score 11, you're happy.
Oh, sure. I mean, and he still did good enough to where he was named the most outstanding player of the entire Final Four. I mean, you don't always have to be the highest scorer in the game in order to lead your team to victory. And yes, LeBron, I'm talking to you. You don't always have to be the highest scorer to lead your team to victory. What helps lead your team to victory is the plays that you make, whether you have the ball or don't have the ball. That's what being a true leader is all about. That's what being a true team player is all about.
Walter Clean will be is or has he declared for the draft yet?
I don't believe so.
Has Cooper Flag at all?
I don't think he has yet.
Okay.
Okay, well, Walter Clayton, he was actually a senior this year. So
So
he
he will
may not get a chance to come back,
Okay.
depending on how. I mean, it depends on how, or whenever he came into college. Because if it was around the COVID area, then of course he has that extra year of eligibility if he decides to use it.
Yeah. So just a quick update on my end things here. And yes, my camera is off, folks, and this is not the disembodied voice. You're not hearing his soul from the beyond. I'm just dealing with a little bit of some back spasms, so I had to switch over with my computer off and kind of just chill out. So, but I'm still here, still ready to do this damn thing with you guys. And to continue on with some of the other sports things. I mean, my view, because I got to watch most of the second half of that game in um or second or the most of the second half of the championship game. And the thing was is that it shouldn't have been a seesaw battle. To me, yes, those games are like that. But if you're ahead, you need to step it up. You need to put your not saying they took their foot off the gas like Duke did, which I agree with you completely. Duke took their foot off the throttle and did not push forward. When it comes to this game though, when it comes to Houston, they had the lead on pretty much the whole game. And they were missing critical shots when it counted and letting and getting fouls when they shouldn't have been getting fouls. And they got lucky a couple of times, including one of the players who got fouled. He spiked the ball on the court and it went up in the air and he got hit with a technical, which allowed, of course, the shot and the possession. So, if there were some key moments in there where Houston could have put them away, but they didn't. And that left the opening for Florida to come in there and sneak in with those extra few points, get those fouls that were needed to seal it up. And also that last critical bounce in a possession that happened that they fucked up on, that you can see the coach for Houston's face when that happened. He was just dumbfounded, stone faced, like, what the hell did my team just do?
Again, it is up to these kids to go out there and execute these coaches' plans.
I agree 100%. Real quick, also on NXT, real quick, it's Jordan Grace versus Jada Parker. And NXT Women's Champion Stephanie Vaquer is at the announce table with Booker, Corey, and Vic. So that's going on right now, just to give an update. Some other news, I'm going to switch over to the NFL real quick. Congratulations are in order to ESPN because they have an industry-leading 63 Sports Emmy Award nominations across 40 categories. And it is the 12th straight year that ESPN has led the industry. Of course, the Sports Emmys are a huge, huge deal. And I wouldn't be surprised if WWE was nominated for a few here. So let me check real quick.
One thing you won't see is AEW.
Oh,
Get nominated for anything.
I was trying to lay off the shot. I was trying to be a good boy here and lay off the shots on AEW. You know,
Just saying.
I know, I know. Hey, you guys can say whatever the hell you want. You have the right to it. That's your right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's right. But it is your right. All right, all right, all right.
Speaking of which,
Did I just pull
oh my
a comment about
gosh.
Matthew McConaughey?
No,
'Cause that's
but I do have to bring this up. You know, we talk so much crap about the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to the
yeah.
NFL,
Oh no.
Rightfully deserved.
but I believe you guys know where I'm going with this. At least Dallas has enough smarts to not pull off a very, very questionable signing that Steven's favorite team, the Carolina Panthers, did by signing a former college basketball player who is 6'9", 225
Wait,
pounds.
hold up, Joey. He's 6'9" and you can't teach that?
Yeah, 225 pounds, named Colin Granger as a tight end. But here's the kicker. Has he ever played any football before? No, he has not. So what makes Carolina think that this is a quality signing? Fill me in, because I'm lost.
And I wrote on Kevin's post on Facebook, I said, this right here is something I would equate to them like if AEW was, if Tony Khan was basically calling them, the Carolina Panthers, to AEW of the NFL. You're just throwing shit against the wall and seeing where it sticks. What the fuck? You're converting a college basketball player to a tight end who has never played a lick of football. At least Antonio Gates converted from a college athlete and also played, not only did he play college basketball, but he also played tight end.
Yeah, he sure
You've
did.
lost your marbles. God, I hope this guy drops every single ball that he gets thrown to, because clearly if he does, he ain't got no hands.
Well, that is very true. But of course, when you also have a quarterback who, yes, I know he went to the University of Alabama, and yes, I know he was a good college quarterback, but he is still trying to find his footing in the NFL because of that absolute weak offensive line that doesn't know protection.
Oh, that offensive line sure is weak.
I mean, yeah, that offensive line for Carolina wouldn't know protection if it smacked him right in the face, which is why Bryce Young still continues to run around the field like his head is cut off. But yeah, when you have that kind of quarterback who doesn't have that kind of protection, it makes it even more of a questionable move.
Absolutely. You look ridiculous to get a guy who has never played a down of football. He's never had reps in playing football. You can't just snap your fingers and say, hey, you're playing tight end or playing this position. Come on. Come on.
Unbelievable.
And of all teams to do it, it is the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
I thought it was April Fool's, But then I realized no, it's April 8th.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
What?
Julia just returned. And she turned heel.
Who?
Wait, what?
She attacked Stephanie McCurry and hit her with the Northern Lights bomb. Stepped on her face holding the NXT Women's Championship.
Holy shit.
You said Julia did that?
Yep.
Wow.
Whoa.
She wasn't gone for very long.
Nope.
She wasn't gone for very long.
Oh, if we get this
Wow.
at Stand and Deliver, sign me up.
I think it's going to be a 4-way. I think it's going to be Steph, Jada, Jordan, and Julia.
Dude,
Oh, that
take my money.
Would be absolute killer.
Take my money.
So, yeah. I didn't mean
Holy crap.
I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation about the
No, you're fine. This is why we love doing live. This is why we love doing a live broadcast, because anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Wow.
So you mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, right? You mentioned Dallas Cowboys, and we've been getting into a little bit of the NFL talk.
Oh yeah, I did.
No. I'm just saying. I'm trying to connect the dots to make this seem more, fluid. That's all. I ain't saying you haven't done anything, but I haven't said you've done enough. No, I digress. Joe, you kill every time. Thank you very much for being on the show. And that's me being serious. Thank you.
If he could be serious for a minute.
Yeah, if I could be serious for a minute. And I said that with little to no personality, just like Ricochet. But moving on here, Notre Dame quarterback Benjamin Morrison, who missed much of last season due to a hip labrum repair and didn't participate in the Combine or Notre Dame's Pro Day, will do a positional workout for teams on Monday, April 21st at his high school in Arizona. Brophy Prep. Brophy Prep. Morrison's father, Daryl Morrison, played safety for the Redskins and is now a team chaplain for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I actually happened to see that earlier today.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in my Washington Commanders fan group page were saying that we need to look into drafting this guy, because they're saying that him paired with Mike Sainristil would be a deadly combo. But I don't know if I can see that just yet, because because for one thing, the guy has injury issues, obviously. And whenever he was on the field, which hasn't been very many times as of late, he can be an impact player, but I just haven't seen anything to make me say, wow, let's get this kid. At least not yet. But the NFL draft is literally coming up in just over 2 weeks. So,
yep.
Which, by the way, check your local listings for that, because I believe it is starting on Thursday night, April 24th, and going through Saturday the 26th.
Absolutely. Speaking of programming notes, I got a couple programming notes. Don't forget tomorrow, for all the sports fans out there, and especially all of the fans of a certain guy who hosts a show at noon Eastern on YouTube and on ESPN, that being Mr. Pat McAfee. Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, his little blockbuster thing that he's doing tomorrow night.
Yeah, the big night out, which is going to take place at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on YouTube, TikTok Live, and X. So definitely go to any of those platforms to watch it. Plenty of special guests, surprises, sing-alongs, and more. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild. You don't know who's going to show up, so definitely watch that. There are still just a very small amount of tickets available. It originally sold out, but they opened up more space, so definitely check that out. Also tonight on, I believe it is either Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, The Game, the WWE Hall of Famer class of 2025 Triple H, will be on, discussing, of course, his Hall of Fame induction and, of course, WrestleMania. Wanted to throw those two things out there real quick before we move on back to the football. And here we are.
Yeah, he's going to be appearing on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you very much. South Carolina defensive tackle T.J. Saunders is visited yesterday with the Texans, and he visited today with the Cardinals. He previously visited the Falcons, Titans, Eagles, and Packers. Let's see who other big news. I'm looking through here. Adam Schefter's Twitter. Obviously, there wasn't a lot. Justin Fields, of course, arrived yesterday to the Jets offseason program, aka the beginning of his career dying, but I digress.
Oof.
But let's see here. I'm trying to check through and see if there's any big news here. This. Trey Lance. He is going to the Chargers on a 1-year deal.
Oh
Whoop-de
boy.
doo. He gets to play third fiddle once again behind Justin Herbert and
the other guy.
Whatever the backup's name is.
It's not Easton Stick, is it?
What?
I don't know. Let me take a look.
No bullshit. There is a quarterback that played with the Chargers as a backup named Easton Stick.
Let's see.
Let's see here. While he's looking that up, real quick, veteran offensive tackle Kelvin Beachum re-signed a 1-year deal to return to the Arizona Cardinals. Beachum will now enter his 14th season and his 6th with Arizona.
Okay, so it is thankfully it is not Easton Stick.
Maybe he was moved away.
But it is somebody that that we, especially me, is familiar with. Someone by the name of Taylor Heineke.
Oh my God.
Oh.
I remember him.
Yep, former Washington football team quarterback.
It's interesting there. Let's see. They had the showcase with Shador Sanders a couple days ago. His showcase story session. He was 58 for 63 with 3 incompletions, clear drops. Then he went perfect in the 2-minute drill afterwards. Also, in other news, the last steel beam of the new Bills Highmark Stadium that is set to open next year has been raised and put in place. So all that's left now is to build the rest of the interior and exterior, and hopefully the stadium will open for that time. Also, too, Case Keenum has signed a 1-year deal up to $3 million to be a backup on the Chicago Bears.
I read that the other day. Yep.
And of course, we got to get into Trey McBride being the highest paid tight end.
Oh yes, he got paid.
Yeah, he did.
4 years, $76 million deal, $43 million of a guaranteed, and $19 million average per year.
Dang, man, get that money.
You know who else got paid? Geno Smith.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
2 years, $75 million.
Pretty sure Randy's happy about that.
Oh yeah, Geno Smith is a reliable quarterback when he plays well. So that's actually a good pick for the Raiders. So I will give them that.
And of course, not to mention
What's up?
Not to mention, the Raiders may be lacking on receivers, but they certainly aren't lacking on tight ends because they literally have one of the best young tight ends in the game in Brock Bowers, who had an outstanding rookie season last year.
You could have made
And
the
he's on,
argument
and
if
he's
Jaden Daniels did not have the year that he had last year for the Commanders, you could have given it to Bowers. That's how good he was.
oh yeah, hands down, hands down.
And Joey, we go to your beloved Commanders, and it's something minor, but I like to report it. Is that Marshawn Lattimore, who wore number 23 in his first season with Washington, will switch back to number 2, the same number he wore at Ohio State.
Yep, I saw that. And keep in mind, there's another piece of news that has been reported in regards to my Washington Commanders. We have made an interesting hire to our coaching staff, and that, of course, is former New England Patriots and Super Bowl champion wide receiver or former wide receiver Wes Welker.
Damn.
Interesting.
We have added him to our personnel staff. He's going to be working with the personnel, and he's also going to be working with the coaches on the field.
Well, knowing how Wes Welker was one of the greatest slot receivers of his era, he is going to be a great coach to this Commanders team.
Oh yeah, I mean, just imagine if him and Cliff Kingsbury put their minds together. Imagine what type of offense we could put out there on the field with those two offensive masterminds coming together.
Mm-hmm. You know, and that's the one thing going into year 2 for Jaden Daniels. That's also scary, is the fact that he'll have a full year already under his belt and took this team a doorstep away from the Super Bowl.
Now, I'll admit, I mean, I have been reading some articles saying that some NFL executives and media reps are concerned over the two words that have really been played into existence over the past several years. And that, of course, is sophomore slump. But I honestly believe that Jaden is too good of a player right now to not have to worry about a sophomore slump, because you got a true bona fide receiver in Terry McLaurin. You finally got a number 2 receiver, or as I like to call him, a 1B receiver to throw to in Deebo Samuel via trade. And not to mention, you also got one of the best offensive linemen in the game right now via trade. That, of course, being Laramie Tunsil. So, I mean, once again, let Adam Peters cook. He knows what he's doing for this Washington organization. And me, as a Commanders fan, I couldn't be any more happier.
Oh, and speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, we're not done. Just wanted to bring that up because there is a signing, or at least a trade, and that is Joe Milton from the New England Patriots went to the Cowboys in exchange for the 7th. They said Joe Milton and a 7th round pick to the Cowboys in exchange for Dallas's compensatory 5th round pick.
Whoop-de-doo. Who cares?
I was waiting on Steven to say something because it is Dallas.
Yeah, fuck him.
We all know Steven. He's still trying to get his head around his favorite team signing a player who's never played a down of football in his life.
And I get it. And if you're asking yourself why, because fuck them. That's why.
What?
Yeet.
No yeet.
Okay, Jim. Big Jim. Some sad news out of the NFL also too. John Villa, former champion in Super Bowl 11, passed away at the age of 74. Back on April 2nd. So he was a member of the Raiders from 72 to 79. He was also a graduate from USC as well and played football at USC. So definitely want to say condolences to the Raiders organization for that loss at this time. Let's see here. Looking for any big news here real quick for you. Oh, here's one. The Bills have officially extended Chris Benford to a 4-year contract extension.
Interesting.
Good move by Buffalo, making more moves.
Yeah, they officially signed, so now it's good. And that's pretty much in the world of the NFL. I believe so. I'm checking NFL.com real quick, and then we can move on to a little thing called, I don't know, history, and we'll get into that in a minute. Real quick. Also, Caleb Williams in an interview said he aims to grow big time with Ben Johnson as his head coach, and has already said the chemistry between them two has been pretty amazing just in talking and early stuff going on. So here's some hope for me and my Chicago Bears on at least having a more decent season this year as a starting point to hopefully something better.
I really just hope for Chicago's sake that Ben Johnson actually does work out, because they need a bright spot in their organization after all the hell that they've been through over the years of their history.
Well, let's just hope that Caleb Williams doesn't jinx himself again. Because keep in mind, in case y'all guys have been, or in case anyone's been living under a rock over the past year, after Caleb Williams learned that they signed a new punter named Tory Taylor, he actually went to him face to face and told him, "You're not going to be punting a lot this year, kid." But he punted quite a bit. So let's just hope Caleb Williams he doesn't jinx himself again.
I wouldn't be doing that again. And also, while Chicago's at it, they got to draft better, and we're coming up on the draft. And
yep,
Chicago needs to address the biggest elephant in the room, and that is their god-awful offensive line.
And they've done pretty well so far with the draft picks, not the draft picks, but the free agent signings, adding some veteran leadership and bringing in some great offensive players. But we need some young blood in there who can play really good, able to follow, able to learn, and able to really pick it up. And I think, and I have hope that Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, everybody at the Bears organization can get their stuff together and really help elevate this team. I'm not looking for, a major winning season. I'm just looking to see some more improvement and get us a couple more wins that we didn't have before, especially against major teams that we should be beating. And I have hope that if they make the right moves in free agency, I think that we have a very good chance of having a great season. So let's go ahead and since the NFL is done, let's go ahead and move on to the NHL. And I would watch this live as it happened, and it was an amazing moment. And that is, of course, Washington Capitals captain Alexander Ovechkin.
Oh, yes.
The long-standing 31-year record of Wayne Gretzky, scoring his 895th goal in the same amount of games it took Wayne Gretzky to score 894. An unreal moment that early morning on Saturday or on Sunday, and I turned it on just to catch it. Turn on just to watch it, see if anything would have happened. They got on a power play goal. They passed it to Ovechkin. Ovechkin slaps it in from a good 10 feet away, goes right in. He slides on the ice. Teammates all around. Wayne Gretzky up in the box, smiling, clapping, happy he was there to witness his record getting broken. Man, what a moment! They held a night. It even stopped the game to hold a ceremony for him for breaking that record. They stopped the game. It brought down, Wayne and some of the other members of the organization. TJ Oshie, his former teammate, was in attendance. So it was an awesome moment for him. I'm not a Capitals fan. I'm a Blackhawks fan through and through, and always will be. But to me, that is hockey and sports history. What a hell of a moment! And congratulations to Alex Ovechkin, who now is immortal. Who's probably he is the greatest scorer of all time, and possibly the greatest player of all time.
That old saying is true. Records are meant to be broken. This is a record that none of us thought unimaginably would be broken. But it was. Chasing history, chasing immortality, and he did it. He will be ever immortalized as the one who passed one of the greatest all-time hockey players in hockey history. The fact that Gretzky was there to witness his record being broken, could not be any more happy for him, for the Capitals fans. Just to witness this happen, like, it was a moment that we will always forget. And when you look at the end of the year moments for 2025, this will be right up there when it's all said and done.
And also, too, I got to point out also, too, the two men who got who set up Alex Ovechkin for that goal with the assists. Looking them up now here. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. I'm looking right now for them, and oh, come on. This article is terrible. Here we go. Congratulations are also in order to Tom Wilson and Dylan Strom, who were the players who assisted on the record-breaking goal too, as well. And just, it's a moment. Unfortunately, it wasn't at home ice, which of course would have made that celebration even more legendary. But that New York Islanders crowd was beyond happy that Alex Ovechkin broke that record, and they were able to see it. And there was plenty of Capitals fans in attendance who traveled there to see that moment happen live in front of their very eyes. So definitely wanted to say on this show, congratulations to the great eight, Alexander Ovechkin. Joey, any thoughts on that?
I mean, what can I say? I mean, Alex Ovechkin has been one of the greatest scorers in the history of the NHL ever since he first took the ice back in 2005. But I will say that even though goal number 895 is always going to be a classic, I think the best goal that I ever saw Alexander the Great Ovechkin score was in 2006 when, of course, still as a member of the Washington Capitals when he was much younger, faced off against the Phoenix Coyotes, who were coached by none other than Wayne Gretzky himself, and him scoring that amazing goal while losing his balance on that ice and just literally sliding that puck in like it was nothing. I will never, ever forget that amazing goal that he scored back in that game back in 2006. Never forget it. Never will forget it.
For me, one of the greatest goals I've ever seen was of course, it involves my Blackhawks, and it's a Stanley Cup Championship 2010 against the Philadelphia Flyers. When Patrick stuck that puck right in between the webbing of the net in the back of the crease, freaking stuck it in there. And at first they didn't think they won, or first they didn't feel like they won until they confirmed it. And it was one of the craziest moments ever because you're like, wait, did he get it? Did he get it? Oh my God, he got it! It was that moment of hesitation.
Oh, yeah.
And then another moment in his career that sticks out for me was the Stanley Cup Finals. I believe it was against the Bruins, right? Because they were trailing in that game. I believe it was game 6. They were trailing in that game down by 2 goals.
And what year, Steven?
2013. And Chicago scored to tie the game, and then they got a turnover, and then about 5 seconds later, they scored again and won the game.
I mean, that seemed that
Yep, you would be correct. It was the Chicago Blackhawks over the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, one of the craziest sequences in hockey I've ever witnessed as it happened live, listening to the game. I'm going, wait, what? They just scored 2 goals in a matter of seconds to win the championship? Like, unimaginable, because it looked like it was headed to a game 7.
I mean,
Ovechkin has been around for a lot of history-making plays and moments, and you can add this to his resume. This will go down probably at the top of his resume because this is a record that none of us thought could be broken. You could dream about it and picture it in your head that somebody would pass the great Wayne Gretzky. But it happened. It's a reality. Congratulations.
That Joe Quenneville
they scored those 2 goals within 17 seconds.
Yep.
That Joe Quenneville led Blackhawks teams of that era, 2010, 2013, 2015. Those 3 championship victories, the dynasty that we built off of that. I mean, just incredible. But just want to see one more time. Congrats to Alex Ovechkin, and definitely worth the discussion today on a history-making moment. But
absolutely, and another thing to add, since we're on the note of congratulations, let's also extend a congratulations to soon to be number 1 overall WNBA draft pick and UConn standout Paige Beckers on finally getting that monkey off her back and winning her first and only national championship with the UConn Huskies.
Yeah, how could I forget that? Thank you, Joey. Yeah, definitely want to send a congratulations to the Huskies on winning the women's national championship. I mean, absolutely deserving team. Great performances all around. Like you said, Paige Becker's finally getting the one thing that has eluded her and finally came to fruition.
And yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that next week, I believe it is next Monday, actually, is the WNBA draft. There was no doubt in my mind that Paige Beckers is going to hear her name called first. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah. Also too, before we leave you tonight, also I want to promote here UFC 313 or 314, excuse me. It is taking place this Saturday. It is taking place this Saturday, April 12th. Of course, it's going to be on ESPN Plus and traditional pay-per-view providers. It is going to be. I'm trying to pull up the Wikipedia one. It is going to be at the Casillas Center in Miami, Florida. Different. It's not your typical MGM Grand Garden Arena or T-Mobile Arena, whatever it is. So, in this one, big, huge card fight on this one too. We got the main event, which is going to be a UFC featherweight clash between Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopez. And also the lightweight contention between former Bellator champion and UFC contender Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett. Bryce Mitchell will take on Jean Silva. Yair Rodriguez will take on Patricio Pitbull. And Nikita Krylov will take on Dominic Reyes. Oh, that is the main card. And also Dan EJ versus Sean Woodson. Yan Jian versus Virna Jandiroba. Jim Miller versus Chase Hopper, the legend Jim Miller, still fighting. And Enriquez Dumas will take on Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. And also on the preliminary card, just to throw this out there, this other preliminary card, the early one, which of course is on Fight Pass ESPN Plus, it is Julian Rosa versus Portage, Indiana's own Darren the Damage Elkins.
Nice.
Very excited to have our homeboy back on a UFC fight card. One of the most productive and one of the best featherweights out there. So definitely good to see Darren here fighting on this huge card. So UFC taking place this weekend as well. Don't forget also, just on some other news real quick, other events taking place, of course. This week we got New Japan Pro Wrestling's Windy City Riot taking place as well. It's going to be taking place at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. Some great matches on that card, including Hiroshi Tanahashi's final U.S. appearance, as he will be retiring at Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th of 2026 next year. So, if you want tickets, go to Ticketmaster or go to njpw1972.com for more information. Do any of you guys have anything else you want to throw out before we wrap it up for tonight?
I do want to bring up last night. Again, I know we're not a wrestling show, and yes, I did bring up making fun of that god-awful finish to AEW Dynasty in my parody of a public service announcement. And I know, Ez, you got that because I did that in the style of the first two Eminem records.
Yes. I caught that right off the bat. I was laughing my ass off. I knew right away that was straight out of the Marshall Mathers LP and all that stuff. I knew it was coming. So great job on that, by the way.
Thank you. All I had to do was just go in there, do the main clip, and then go in there and do the silent audio clips and overdub that into the final video, and that way it would flow. I would put the clips at the end of each clip and then all of that stuff. But yeah, besides that god awful finish and that pretty much, was so bad. Sunday night. I mean, it was that pay-per-view was. It had its moments where there was some good stuff, like the FTR and Copeland heel turn with Dax and Cash Wheeler turning on Copeland. That was great because eventually I think we can kind of think that Christian somehow, someway is going to find his way back somehow on the Adam Copeland side. And then you had obviously that Will Ospreay match, and there's not a bad Ospreay match. I can't think of any bad Ospreay matches. His matches are so good. So crisp, so good. And speaking of so good, Megan Bain and Toni Storm, phenomenal job, ladies. Great match.
And also, I want to throw out there real quick, since we're talking about it, Kenny Omega, Speedball Mike Bailey, Ricochet tore the fucking house down. Those guys, dude, amazing match. And I got to point out what you said about Will Ospreay's match. Yeah, Will Ospreay's match with Kevin Knight was kicked off the night perfectly. And I want to say this. As much as we're giving our opinions about the ending of the show, we will say that 90% of this show, around 85 to 90% of this show, was good to great. Great matches. Everybody worked their ass off. If people could have opinions about whether it's about Mercedes and the Julia Hart match, and I agree, wasn't the best, but Julia's still learning. She's still not doesn't have a lot of ring time, and so obviously you're dealing
Mark
with
Briscoe works his ass off all the time.
Mark Briscoe, and Kyle Fletcher were as physical as they can get. Gotta hand him to a round of applause too.
The triple threat to me stole the show. But the one thing that everybody is going to be talking about, it is the two glaring things. The first thing is the officiating spot with Chris Jericho and Bandito. Jericho cheated to win the match. And then Bandito's family is at ringside, his mother and his sister at ringside, and they see that he cheated to win. So Aubrey Edwards comes out and they're like, hey, did you see that? I didn't see that. Well, I saw it. That he cheated with the bat. Hey, if you look behind the steps, there's the bat. You already called the bell. The match is over. It was so bad. And then she goes, oh, I was told, I didn't see it, but I was told that he cheated to win the match. Oh, he says we're gonna be restarting the match. And then they restarted the match and Bandito won. And that pissed me off. And then the main event. The main event, after having to follow that epic triple threat encounter between Ricochet, Kenny Omega, and Speedball Mike Bailey. And speaking of Speedball, he looked great in his first pay-per-view match with AEW. I cannot wait down the line when he hooks it up with Ospreay like they did in TNA on pay-per-view a couple years ago. That was an incredible match in TNA on pay-per-view a couple years ago. I believe that was at Rebellion. But getting back to that main event, the bell did not ring until 11:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You mean to tell me that this main event went on 30 minutes, 31 minutes to be exact, went on for 30 minutes and it dragged ass. It was so bad. So bad. And what made it even worse was the officiating was being made fun of. I mean, the match was so boring. I looked at the clock and it was 12:05 and I'm like, we're 15 minutes in and this thing is doing nothing. It is methodical for all the wrong reasons. Sure, you want to build a wrestling match and make it look good. You don't want to rush your spots and get all your stuff in. But you got to do something to keep the fans invested. And they pulled that. They pulled that this past Sunday. And then what made the two things that stuck out most, and Ezra, you can attest to this. We were on Zoom watching this as it unfolded live. The ladder gets brought out by Moxley. And then the referee is saying, get back in the ring, get back in the ring. Meanwhile, he's helping them set up the spot and hold the ladder for the spot. And he's telling him, get back in the ring. What the fuck is going on? You mean to tell me that you're going to go out there and make the officials look even more foolish? I mean, this was so bad. And it's bad enough that Excalibur and Taz were basically calling out the spot, going, Bryce, I know you got to make a tough decision, but you got to do something. He wasn't even counting. Get back in the ring. Get back to the ring. Shut the hell up and start counting. Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. And as the spot that I know that made you so mad was the constant run-ins after the ref bump with the chair.
Look, Steven, I will say this much about the run-ins. It's not the fact that we had the run-ins. Like, I didn't care. Like, the run-in part wasn't the bad part. It was the talent that were there that had no correlation with the story. And that was the odds. That's the thing that drove me nuts, was the fact there was no correlation for that run-in. If it was somebody who was involved in the Death Riders story from the beginning, somebody who Death Riders attacked. But the problem is, most of the Death Riders competitors who were attacked are out on legitimate injury leaves, or they're already in different stories. Like, for instance, Switchblade Jay White, who's sided with Adam Copeland and all that. Jay White's out with a broken hand. You have FTR, who just turned heel. And you have Edge, whose storyline taken out by FTR with multiple concertos and a spike pile driver onto a chair.
The only guy, and like we pointed out afterwards, the only guy that I did not have a problem with was Hangman Adam Page, because he has history with Swerve.
Yeah, that's completely fine. And yes, history with both Mox and Swerve.
Yes.
Because Mox has questioned Hangman about who he is.
Yes.
And who he is as a person. Is he truly this evil-minded person, or is he just hiding his insecurity?
What I mean by with the run-ins that drove you nuts, it was the ops. It was the people that were coming in that made no sense.
And I love Samoa Joe. I think Hook is a bright spot. And Shibata, I mean, come on. Shibata is the most fucking entertaining thing with the Google Translate and all that. He's hilarious. It's just that there was no correlation with the story. Therefore, it didn't need to happen. But if it was somebody else that would have made sense, I would have been fine with it. I wouldn't have cared. It was a mess. Yes, it was all a mess. From that to the Young Bucks returning and hitting the BTE trigger on Swerve and all that. I mean, look, I took a look back at a video from AEW from the last night the Bucks were on TV, and I'm not trying to make excuses. Listen to this. The Bucks were in their office ripping up papers and like documents, like almost like full documents, and throwing them away before they took off. I know it has nothing to do with anything, but I'm just saying, keep that in mind when this whole thing starts. I don't know what's going to happen. Look, as much as the ending was, as what it was, the show overall was great. I thought the show overall, the wrestling, the in-ring action was good to great. All the competitors worked their asses off, even Swerve and Moxley. I will give, the match wasn't great. It was bad, but their work, you can't deny the work rate, the heart, the intensity. Everybody brought it.
But I think the problem that I had with this show completely, it was too freaking long.
Yeah, it was long. It was a long show, dude.
That will take you out. That will take you out of a show if it drags for so long, because you've seen so much wrestling. Now, I get it. If it's All In, if it's Double or Nothing, those are two of your big shows. This is Dynasty. This is not your flagship pay-per-view.
Here's the thing, though. I can't complain about 7 to 8 hours of wrestling, because in about give or take 8 days, I'm about to do it all over again for four or 5 straight days.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be complaining at all.
Because we're going to be home, baby.
Well, not only that, but also too, I'm going to have so much wrestling to watch. I'm going to have to detox for a month.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing I definitely want to talk about before we get off the air is last night on Raw, because what a unbelievable promos by Jey Uso and by Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. Bravo, gentlemen. Bravo.
Yes, sir. And we also want to take this time at this moment to bow our heads and send a prayer to Carlito, because Lord knows that he was declared clinically dead last night after Braun Breaker mega super industrial speared him into oblivion. He turned Carlito into one of Jason's victims in Friday the 13th, sliced him in half. Elder would appreciate that.
And this is why I put Braun Breaker on my defensive team.
Yes.
Because that dude is so quick.
Speaking real quick, Ricky Saints is getting ready to come out here in a minute. Actually, he's coming out now on NXT. Of course, it's the new NXT North American champion. Congrats to him. But real quick before we go, definitely just want to send once again a prayer to all the people that were either killed or injured in the Dominican Republic nightclub building collapse. The numbers unfortunately keep growing as far as injured and dead. They're far from picking everybody out of the rubble. So We're definitely going to be thinking of everybody out there. And I know one of our colleagues, Sam, is originally from the Dominican Republic. Luckily, he was not there. He was in Puerto Rico visiting his father. So, uh, to the people there, the Dominican Republic, we feel your pain and we want to send our best to you guys.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks that this happened. It just like things like this, they sometimes happen, when you can't predict when these big structure things are gonna come down. Like, we don't know what happened, we weren't there, but all I know is when this happened, chaos ensued, and people were trying to run, and run for cover and take, seek shelter, that made it out of it. I mean, it sucks. I mean, and then also there was a festival in Mexico over the weekend where two photographers were covering this festival, and this anchor come down and it killed both of the photographers on impact because the wind knocked it down. And I think the reason why it was knocked down is because it was not properly rigged. It was not properly set up. When you're running these things, you have to have these things properly secured. But sometimes, even when things are properly rigged, and set up, sometimes, winds are so devastating, it doesn't matter how good rigged it is. It can still be knocked down by the nature force of the wind. I mean, you gotta look out, for one another. You got to protect your brother and your sister. You got to look at that. That's the one thing about being out, at big, festivals and events with people. And, and I got to give a lot of credit to people in situations like this, like even the people that did make it, out of the roof collapsing, in the Dominican Republic, the ones that did survive, they're helping out the other families and friends, of these people that are either injured or unfortunately their lives were claimed. And they're doing their best, to help their people around them, and it sucks, that this tragedy unfold in the Dominican Republic. And again, like Ezra has said, and we send our condolences, our thoughts, and our prayers to the entire family and friends, and also to the sports athletes that were claimed in this tragedy that were former MLB players. I mean, it sucks. It really sucks.
Absolutely. Steven, let's go ahead and do our final thoughts so we can get on and finish watching the rest of NXT. Your final thoughts, my brother.
First off, great job by Joey here tonight. I know he had to get off and get ready to go get some sleep to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, he had to help his wife out.
Yeah. Great job by Joey, as always, tonight. Great job by you. You can follow us on Twitter or X at Owen_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, and where we are live on most Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific at youtube.com/Nation Sports Show. Also, don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, Instagram/Nation's Corner, and where the guys and gal are live at youtube.com/The Nation's Corner on most Saturday nights, 7 p.m., 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, where they talk about all things professional wrestling. And I'm pretty sure they are going to be talking about the Finish to Dynasty. And I know this is going to be a lot of opinions that are going to be split, down the wire. I mean, the one thing I still can't wrap my head around is why did the Bucks, and like you said, why did the Bucks show up, screw Swerve out of that main event picture, or out of that match against Moxley, after what seemed that, he was going against the Death Riders, and we're not falling for your shit. We're done. We're leaving. This is your fault. Now we're gonna screw Swerve. Like, come on, you got to do some serious explaining to do. I mean, and just
and they will. The Young Bucks will be live with a microphone tomorrow night on Dynamite.
We shall see. Hopefully they can make some sense of this shit. But anyways, the guys and gals will be live this Saturday talking about all of the events of AEW Dynasty, and also talking about what happened last night on Raw, what happens tonight on NXT, what will happen on Dynamite, SmackDown, and so on and so forth. And it is absolutely crazy. We are so close to WrestleMania 41 in Vegas, taking place next week. And looking forward to that. And thank you guys for tuning in tonight on demand. And for those that tuning in live tonight, and for those that tune in on demand, Thank you very much as well. With that being said, Ezra, wrap us up, my friend.
Will do, man. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys joining in on the conversation. You could always like, subscribe, share our videos, and please follow our individual social medias in the description of this video. Don't forget to follow Nation's Corner. Don't forget to follow 2C Cosplay, and please do 3 things. Number 1, appreciate people. Number 2, live your day to the fullest. And number 3, the biggest one when it comes to wrestling, support indie wrestling. And don't forget, also next week, along with WrestleMania, there's the GCW Collective. There's multiple events around the entire Las Vegas area. Whether you're watching on Title Match Network, Triller TV Plus, Peacock, Netflix, wherever, go to your favorite company's websites, social medias to get the information on where you can watch their programs, or if you're attending live, where to get tickets. We hope everybody has a great week as we head down the road to WrestleMania and the road into sports. So definitely check that out. Coming up for Kevin Rory, for Stevie Wyand, for Joey Thornton, Randy Gyron, and everybody in the Sports Show Nation. I am Mr. Vickery. We will see you here next time for another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. Take care, everybody. Have a great time. And we will see you all next week. Same time, same YouTube channel. Join us. And that's the bottom line, because the sports show said so.
Turn me up.